We're live. I don't know if you can see it, Duncan.
Nothing. I'm refreshing. Yes, you are.
We're live?
You're live.
Okay, we're back. We are back. Guys, sorry for that slight technical issue. We started for like 5 minutes and it wasn't live, but we're live now. If you're there, can you give us some love hearts, give us some comments? I want to know that we're actually live and that you guys are tuning in.
And also let them know that the first 5 minutes was recorded and posted on the page.
Yes, and the first 5 minutes was recorded and posted on the page. But don't worry because you're going to be able to watch it later. And I'm also going to do an edit of this whole video that you're going to be able to watch as well. So let me recap what we've all done. I've only been working for 5 minutes and I only worked through the section through the back. But my name is Richard Mannah. I'm the Global Artist Director for Joico. Thank you for joining us. And again, apologies because of the technical issues. But welcome. It's an honor to be here live from Miami, Florida with you guys all in Australia and New Zealand. So thank you again for joining us this Tuesday morning. Okay, so what I'm working on today for you is called the Wolf Cut. It's inspired by Billie Eilish, which is something, I think a lot of clients are asking for. Once a celebrity has something different like that, that's a little standout, a little different, people begin to request it and it becomes more wearable and more commercial. So we as hairdressers got to be up to date with the ever-changing demands of fashion and trends and technology and be able to implement these looks in our salons, especially when clients request it. Let's not be a follower, let's be a trend setter. So let's not wait for others to do it. Let's be a people that actually lead first. So in this case, I know I've given you guys a recap. I'm going to start again from scratch. So what we did with the sectioning pattern is we started with a center parting all the way down through the back. If you want to come around the back, Dave. We then isolated this back section by working horizontal sections, okay, because this is the part we've actually just cut. Then we've got a middle section and then a top section. And the top section is worked almost like a diamond. So you can see it starts with a point to the top of the ears and then back to below the crown. Okay, and that's my diamond section through the top. The important factor here is to take the section to the top of the ear, okay? Because this is what you want to keep and this is where you want to go shorter through the front, especially with the wolf cut. And then we've isolated the fringe here as well because we're going to customize and bespoke this whole haircut to suit Cassie's face. Say hi, Cassie. They're all wanting to hear from you. Okay, so a recap of what I've done through the back. If you want to come around, David. Okay, so her hair, you can see all the hair on the floor. So we've cut quite a bit off through the back. It was about 2 inches longer. And the sectioning pattern, what we did is we isolated this first section away. We didn't touch that. And we began to work diagonal sections internally. And we layered all this section here, just square and through the hair. We just point cut that through. And we did diagonal sections all the way through. Did the same thing on the other side. We isolated that first section. Why? Because we wanted to maintain that corner. You can see where the layer is, the first layer. That's the corner. If I had cut everything from here, you would see the guide. See how it's longer where the guide is? That's what's giving me the corner, and you won't see a disconnection. It just allows you to maintain that corner through the back, okay? Then what we did is we cross-checked and we made sure that we were happy with the balance, especially internally and in the middle, okay? And what you'll see is it's got a slight point and we just point cut that through until we're happy with this length. So basically we just layered this area through the back area. And now we were working the base and I was squaring off the base through the perimeter just to make sure it's balanced on both sides. And that's when, that's all we've done so far. So we're gonna point cut this through. Please ask as many questions as you like. I'm here for you guys to help in any shape, way or form and be able to answer any questions that you guys might have in regards to technique or anything to do with what I'm doing today. All right, so happy with the balance here. Let's now begin to work around the front. I did begin with the luster lock. This has been the cutting agent for the whole haircut. I am going to use a little bit more of it as we progress on, but I don't want to just use this because if you use too much of this, it could be too much, So I do dampen the hair, but I might use some water also. Okay, this is a great cutting agent. So around the front here, this is the section where you're going to go short around the front and keep a lot of that length through the back, okay? So we're going to take diagonal sections through this way. All right, and you can do the fringe first, you can do the sides first, it's totally up to you. But the whole idea is to elevate like we're doing, teeth to the parting, all right? And then we're gonna work with just the scissors, almost like a razor, and we're gonna cut some of that corner off. Actually, want a slight disconnection around the front. Again, a section, same, T to the parting. T to the parting means if that's the parting, you want it to be T. You don't want to lower the elevation, you want to elevate the graduation and make that T to the parting, so you're creating more softness. The higher the elevation, the more the graduation, okay? And you're working that and cutting some of that corner off as well. You want a slight disconnection. If you want to detail a little bit more, you can always go back in and point cut. And have a look at the shape already. Because of the elevations, created a lot more softness for us around the front through here, okay? Now I still feel it's a little too long just in this corner here. So we're just gonna go back in and we can always point cut that through with elevation. That gives us that softness, okay? And then our last section, again, working T to the parting, elevation, and you can use the scissors like a razor, opening and closing, and that will give you that softness and that broken edge that we're after. And then you can go back in and work some point cutting through in here to give you that softness. You don't want any solid lines. I'd love to hear some questions.
Okay. Question from Jesse. What kind of hair types would you avoid with this style? Hair types.
I guess if you're going to go this short, these looks look really good on curly hair. So I don't want to say avoid that. But you would leave it longer because we all know curly hair shrivels a lot more. So I would say, I think it's kind of for all hair types. People with very fine hair, you just got to cut it in a different way to maintain thickness and weight, because that's what you want to do with people with fine hair. With Cassie, she's got very thick hair. So I'm going to be very conscious of reducing weight as we progress on, especially when we completely dry the hair, because with her hair, it tends to kind of swell, especially when it's dry. Hence why I'm using the elevation a lot higher and reducing weight as I progress on. But there's going to be a lot of that detail when it's dry. But again, we can use it on wavy hair, curly hair. You just got to be conscious of the length. I don't think, it's kind of for all hair types. But I wouldn't overlay short layers on very, very fine hair, because then you won't have much hair around the perimeter. So I would mostly say mid to thick hair, I would work this. With thicker hair, you've got to approach it differently, reduce weight in certain areas, because you don't want it to be overly wide, especially with the layers. When you go too short with layers, it elevates. So you want it to sit naturally and work through that. And that all comes with experience. How long you leave it, how short you take it, you've got to feel that. And I think that comes with experience as you work with hair more and more.
Yeah, that continues on to another question from Carly saying, if someone had really thick hair, how would you approach the front hairline and face framing?
Like I am now. She has actually very thick hair, to be honest. So I'm approaching it like this with the high elevation and using the scissors like a razor and always checking for balance. Cassie has thick hair, believe me. Cassie, do you have thick hair? Yeah. It's very thick. And to be honest, because we've pre-lightened it, it actually feels even thicker because hair swells when you pre-lighten the hair. So it actually is thick hair. This is how I would approach it for thick hair. So you're going to work this down. Yeah, go on. More questions?
Another question. Is the eye a key reference point for you when determining the length of the side? At the side, sorry.
Yes, the eye and the cheekbone. The eye and the cheekbone is very, very important for me. And I'm constantly looking at her face shape to create a style that's going to open up. She's got a beautiful face. If you look at her from the front, she's got a very beautiful face, beautiful cheekbones. You meant to say thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So I want to accentuate that for her. And I'm keeping also in mind the fringe that we're going to incorporate here as well. But if you constantly look at her face shape and her cheekbones, this is going to open up this whole area a lot more by taking it shorter. And that for me is something I constantly look at when I'm cutting anyone's hair. Okay, so checking for balance. I want to just go back in here now that it's wet. I think when it's wet, it's a lot easier to do the cutting that I'm using with the scissors, the slide cutting, the back cutting, because it just allows the hair to get caught into the scissors a lot easier. Now, I do point cut sometimes just to detail if it's needed to be a little bit shorter, but checking for balance is one of the most important things with every haircut. We're never too experienced to check for balance. So you can go back in and you can use the same technique, like so, or you can go back in and do a little point cutting. Especially when you're doing a little trim, it's kind of hard to use that technique, so you can just go back in and point cut and it still gives you a very similar effect.
Could you razor cut those front sections?
Of course, you can razor cut this whole haircut if you wanted to. And I was going to do that, but I just thought, you know what, let's do it with the scissors, just to show you a different way of using the scissors, because not many people use the scissors like I'm using the scissors in terms of almost like a razor. But yes, for that question, you can definitely use the razor around the front. You can in fact use the razor for the whole haircut, if that's what you prefer.
With this freehand cutting style, how much moisture do you have in the hair?
You can see it's pretty wet all the way through. It's like razor cutting. You want enough moisture in there to be able to glide the razor through. And it's the same with the scissors. So you can see I put a good amount of moisture, especially around this area here, and then working that through to create that softness. It's almost like chewing the hair off. Again, you don't want with blonde hair, you don't want the point cutting to be too aggressive. Otherwise you'll see the little steps in the hair. You've got to kind of like point cut in a way, so you don't want to go chunk, 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 leave strong triangles. You want to point cut so it's almost like chewed off, okay? Especially with blonde hair, because if you comb that straight and it's too aggressive, you're going to get little steps in the hair. And I guess no one wants that. You end up spending way more time trying to fix the haircut rather than create the shape by utilizing the right point cutting. Okay, again, just a touch longer in here. This is so important that it's balanced, so be very particular, especially around the face, to make sure that what you're doing is not just good, but perfectly balanced, because that's what's going to save you time later trying to fix the haircut. Okay, last section in front of the ear. Any more questions at the moment, or are we good?
Right now we're good.
Okay, so you can see my guide. Okay, you can see the guide in there. You can see the teeth of the parting, and then I'm just like utilizing the scissors like a razor all the way through to the guideline, okay? And then we're gonna get the corner, straight, teeth are parting from this section here. Are you good, Cassie? Mm-hmm. Okay, she's good. She's excited. She's been waiting for this haircut for like 2 months now. Mm-hmm. I think even longer. And then just, again, we're point cutting just to make sure that the detail and the balance is perfect. But look, the point cutting is very vertical. Very vertical, okay, and that's key right there.
How much time did you dedicate to sectioning?
Very good question. I love that question. I'm so glad you asked that. With this type of haircut, you gotta there's no such thing as advanced cutting. It's advanced thinking. All the cutting is classic, whether it's graduation, whether it's one length, whether it's layering, it's all classic. But where the creativity is coming from is the mapping out and the way we approach it, where we keep it longer, where we take it shorter, where we disconnect, etc. So it actually took me 5 minutes to section off this haircut. But the good thing is, once it's sectioned off, it's so easy to finish the haircut. So you're still spending the same amount of time. I give myself 45 to an hour with each client. So if I spend 5 minutes working the sectioning pattern, I can go through that whole haircut technically while it's wet in about 8 minutes, 10 minutes max. So you're still spending the same amount of time, but in a different way. You're actually being more creative from the approach of mapping out the haircut. So a lot of people say, well, Richard, I haven't got enough time to spend 5 minutes to section off. But if you actually do spend 5 minutes to section off and actually make this haircut a little bit more creative, you'll save time with each other section because it's already all mapped out. You'll cut this section, you'll cut these sections, you'll cut the next section, the top section, and the fringe. It's already been mapped out, so it's a lot easier to work through. Okay, so you can see how there's a disconnection between this point and this point, and that's a good thing for me. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, I actually wanna work the fringe while I'm here. Let's have a look at the fringe. So her fringe is longer, as you can see, than the sides, and we said we're gonna go kind of like around this length with the fringe. So we want it to be shorter, but not short where it's above the eyebrows. We want it to be a lot softer. Now, what I don't wanna do here is I don't wanna just pick up the hair and cut it horizontally. I want to layer the fringe in so it's not so thick. Okay, and you'll see what I mean as I begin to cut this through.
Before you cut, the question is, what styling products would you recommend for this haircut?
You're going to see that. If you stick with me, you're going to see exactly what styling products I'm going to be using. I don't want to use something that's going to thicken the hair. I want something to soften the hair because she's got lots of volume because of the thickness and the color of the hair. So in this case, I'm probably going to use one of my favorite products, which I can touch on now, but I want you guys to stay on the journey with me. This is a fantastic product that I use a lot. It's the Defy Damage Protective Shield. It's a cream. It's a cream basically. You put it on wet hair and it's something that just makes the hair feel and look healthy and actually condenses the hair as well in terms of doesn't give volume, doesn't add volume to the hair. I don't want to waste that, so I'm just going to put that in the back of the hair. That's going to be one of the products I use, but if you stick with me on the journey of this haircut, you're going to see exactly what I'll be using and how I'll be starting this haircut as well. All right, yeah, we're good to go?
We're good, yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do, if you want to come around this side, Dave, we're going to begin to take a vertical section first through this area. You're going to look down for me. Okay, and then what we're going to do is use the scissors again, like a razor, but we're going to layer this through, okay? So elevate everything up and out at 90. All right, and then we're going to work from that point and layer it through, and that will give us much more softness through the fringe than just cutting it bluntly. Okay, we're going to do that for the next section as well, and we're going to keep everything at 90. So we're not going to over direct. Look down for me again, thank you. Okay, body position is key. Elevation, distribution, straight up, straight out. There's my guide, and working that through. So you can already see, have a look. Look how soft that is already. It's just been laid, and you'll see that a lot more when it's dry. It looks more natural rather than cutting it blunt around the perimeter. You're layering that through and it just sits so much better. Last section on this side. Everything up and out. There we are. Cool. Okay, I'm just going to comb that through, and you can see how there's a slight disconnect, okay, with the corner and the fringe. And I'm going to address that. I would rather address that when it's completely done. But all I'm going to do is just visually connect that through and make sure I'm happy with the way the sides are sitting. Again, just a little bit of point cutting. And that's going to give us a really nice perimeter length. And I can always go a little bit shorter there. But before I do that, I like to keep it a little longer because that's what we call optional length. And you don't know exactly how it's going to sit until it's dry. So let's give us something what we call optional length and be able to take it shorter if we need to later, because you can always take hair shorter, you just can't make it obviously longer. All right, so working with the same guideline, layering that through, subdividing that section and progressing on to the next one. And section by section, you layer that through and it really gives you a nice lived in, softer fringe. See, I'm using the scissors like a razor. Again, for those who are joining right now, yes, you can use the razor for this section if you wanted to, but I'm in this case using the scissors just to show you a different way of utilizing the blades.
There's some more questions that have come in. People
Please.
probably joining late a bit. Just asking again, if she had curly hair, would you leave it longer? And the other question was, have you got some tips for cutting fine hair with this kind of style? So just recap on that.
Yeah, I have answered those questions, but thank you for those questions. Keep those questions coming. You can definitely cut this on curly hair. Again, and what I said earlier was I would just leave it longer because we all know curly hair likes to shrink. So you can use the same technique and it looks really, really tasteful and nice on curly hair, but just keep it longer because it's going to jump when you dry it, especially on curly hair. But just so you know, it goes up and then comes back down, and we can have a revisit the length of this completely when it's dry. Okay, and the other question was, with fine hair, I would utilize the same technique, but just be mindful of how short you go with the layers because you don't want the perimeter to be too fine. So you've got to leave it heavier in certain areas and allow for more hair to be maintained, to maintain the weight rather than making fine hair look even finer. Okay, and that comes to the technique, and it also comes to the distribution and the elevation of how you cut this technique.
What do you find are the best scissors for slicing and razoring the hair?
People ask me that question all the time. I use mostly Mitutani scissors, guys, and I've got so many pairs of Mr. Tiny, and they're just Japanese metal, they're handmade Japanese, and they last forever. And when you've got a good pair of scissors, it's easy to actually work with different techniques because they're so sharp and work really, really well.
What do you look for in a pair of scissors, Richard? When you look at a pair of scissors, is it the feeling, the hold?
Well, you know, you got to test in your hand. So yeah, it's got to feel good in your hands. It's also got to be quality. Like for me, when it's Japanese metal and Japanese handmade, I know that it's going to be a quality pair of scissors, because any pair of scissors can feel good in your hands, but you'll only know in time how actually good they are, depending on how sharp they are and how long they last. And for me, the Mitsutani is a great thing. The current one I'm using now is 6.7 inch, okay, as you can see, and it's the sword, nano powder metal, okay, and these are blacks. I love, as you can see, utilizing black equipment with black clips, and these are very, very cool, very sharp, and they feel really good in my hand. You got to play with them, and I guess they got to feel good in your hand. For me, every time I work, I actually flick it, and the reason I do it, A, because it looks good, but secondly, when you flick it, it's actually away from my wrist, and it's also away from my client. So every time I cut, I flick, it's safe for my wrist and safe for my client. Okay? All right, let's go in the back there. I want to start cutting this section here. So this is the back section that I want to cut. Okay, this is where we start going a little bit shorter. I've layered the back area, as you can see, and I'm going to start working horizontally here. Okay, and just work this up and out. I'm starting a whole new guideline. So if you want to just look down slightly for me, all right? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use that corner length and begin just to slice a lot of this length away. All right, people will be like, how short do you take it? How long do you leave it? It's got to be in proportion with the rest of the shape. But I do know that I've layered the underneath. So I'm going to take it a little shorter internally, but I want to maintain some length behind the ear. So that's why I'm going from shorter to longer, from the inside to the outside. Whether you go from longer to shorter, the idea is to go from short to long. Whether you go from long to short or short to long, this is the angle that you want, from the interior to the exterior. And I'm working with slicing everything out at 90 degrees, and this is going to give us a lot more softness. Really working internally and throughout the perimeter, okay? Next section. Now if you want to see where it's going to sit, why don't you just have a look? Okay, it's going to sit around there. All right, can you go a little bit shorter? Of course you could. You know what, let's go just a touch short. I don't want to go too short, to be honest, because I know her hair, it's just gonna sit really thick, but I just want to take a little bit of length off this area here, okay? Okay, you're cutting visually, but you're also cutting technically. You're cutting technically, but you're also cutting visually, and it's the combination of both that makes a really good haircut. Yeah, you got to be technical, make sure everything's balanced and perfect as you work section by section, but you've also got to be visual to make sure that what you're doing is suiting the individual and their hair type. Because you can have a perfectly cut, technically cut haircut, but if it doesn't suit the person that you're working on, it's not going to be a good haircut. So you've got to make sure that, yeah, it's technical, but also visual. Now, when he does that, what I do, I just cut a lot of that length off first, and then I come back and I comb it through, and you can see it's standing up now, and I can just go in and do some slicing, okay? Rather than trying to do it and folding around your fingers. That's a little tip. Just cut a lot of that length off, recomb the hair, and then work that through so you've got that softness. It's a lot easier to hold through the hair. The last section, I'm going to direct to the previous one, okay? So 90, last one to the previous. I'm having everything in my hand.
A few questions.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, do you connect the bottom section with the one eventually?
No. They're close in length because I know what I've done in terms of the underneath, but I'm leaving it slightly disconnected. You can connect it if you wanted to.
Okay.
I'm leaving it slightly disconnected just to give us a bit more of a raw kind of edge to it. So when it falls a little bit more shattered rather than just all connected.
You're creating your own guideline internally, right?
Correct. This is a new guideline.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why are you cutting like that, long to short at that angle?
So that I maintain the corner behind the ear. The whole idea here is to have the disconnection here and then the length through the back. Okay, that's what makes it more of a wolf cut for us here. So you got the shorter around the face and then it drops behind the ear and you got more length. This here is the corner, right? I want to make the maximum corner because I can always cut a little bit off the length later. rather than me cut these too short and it just connects and goes further back, I want a slight drop of length through here that I can detail later. So you got a slight disconnection. Hence why we're going from short internally to long externally. It'll be exactly the same thing on the other side as well. Please let me know, am I answering the questions okay? You guys understanding what I'm saying?
I'm sure they are.
Okay, let us know. Give us some love if you're enjoying this technique and enjoying this session with myself. A special thanks to my brother David Mannah, who's actually in Florida, Miami, Florida with me, and is filming this nicely for us. So big thanks, David. Give David some love, guys.
One question is, what's your favourite magazine in Australia? Hair magazine?
The Journal Mag, obviously. Does that even need to be discussed, David? Okay, so gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. I've clipped the underneath away, just so we know exactly what we're working on. Just put a little bit more moisture, because I've already put the luster lock all the way through. I don't want to overload the hair with luster lock. Again, we're gonna start with the first section. All right, so let's keep the hair wet so it's easier to work through. What I'm gonna do is get a guideline from the other side, which is right here. That's my guide, and I've got a lot of the corner guide through in here. So what I do, I get it to tilt her head slightly, and I'm working this section over. Now what I do, I cut a lot of this first because it's gonna be hard otherwise to actually hold. If you feel comfortable, it's actually nice to stand this way. It's easier for me, because I'm working from short to long again. I can just do the same thing, slicing all the way through to create that softness and follow through with that guideline as well. Okay, again, point cutting, sorry, I should say slicing to give us that jagged edge. I'm gonna just check for balance. Okay, let's do the next section. We're doing 3 sections. This one's done at 90 and the last one is done at over direction to the previous. And this is why it's good to wet the hair and clip it so you can see exactly what needs to be picked up. Keep your hair clean, especially when you're working advanced cutting. You want the hair to be in clean sections so you can follow through with the disconnections and not have to recut what doesn't need to be cut. Okay, so take a lot of that length off first, 1 second, and then we work at 90 and we work slicing. Yes, David?
For this cut, would you always cut your perimeter first before doing your internal layers?
It all depends, I guess. If you're doing a big change, or if you're trimming it, if you're doing a big change, I think so. That way you can cut the layers according in balance to what you're actually working on. But if you're doing a slight trim, you could just reshape it with it and doing that at the end. But because we cut quite a bit off, I want to make sure that the layers are still enough for this length. Otherwise, sometimes you can cut the layers way too short for the length or keep it way too long and then there's no layers. So it's good to establish a guide through the perimeter, especially when you're doing a restyle.
And for those who don't know, why is it called a wolf cut?
That's a good question. Maybe Google that. I don't know, to be honest. But I do know that it's a popular haircut that a lot of people are asking for. Maybe someone can answer that. Why is it called a wolf cut? I would like to know. So if someone has the answer, or if someone's Googling that right now, please do share with us so we can share it with everybody. Okay, last section. Again, all of this length just needs to firstly go. I'm over-directing back to the previous, even though I've got the first section in my hand, I'm actually only over-directing it to the previous section. Okay, we're just slicing that through so it's really broken up. And then I want to also, just before I go to the next section, I want to check for balance and make sure I'm happy. I have a feeling that it's a little, have a look from the front, it's just from the corner, it's just about ½ an inch longer from the very corner, which can be easily fixed, and a little bit longer through there, and a little bit longer through there. Okay, I have a habit, a good habit, of cutting the second side a little bit longer. Why is that a good habit? Because that way I don't have to cut the first side all over again. I can just pick up the hair, which is the first section, and just go ½ an inch shorter. Because if I went shorter than the first section, this whole section needs to be cut again. I'm going shorter than what I actually wanted to. So I'm just going to go through and just cut about ½ an inch off, but still keep the same like chewed off feel all through the perimeter. And the next section, which I can do in one section because it goes to the previous, same thing, elevate everything up and out. All right, and then we're gonna do the same slicing and go that little bit shorter so it's the same on both sides. Balance is key, like I said at the beginning. Balance is key. So whatever section you do, you gotta check for balance and make sure that you're cross-checking on both sides so that you got a really nice balance of haircut. And that's what makes the haircut, I guess, look good, grow out really well, and last 6 to 8 weeks.
So apparently it's called the wolf cut because it looks like a wolf.
All right, I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to go there because I don't want people to feel like you look like a wolf. But fair enough then, there you go. See, that's a lot more balanced. A touch more through this corner, and then we're good with this section. We just got the top section, and then we can begin to actually have a look at the whole shape. Keep your sections very clean and work through. I want to point cut just a little bit of that length off. I'm still giving that chewed off feel, then still a little slicing through in here. Okay. I'm going to comb all this down here. Have a look. When I comb this down for the back, you'll see that it's going to be layered. It's obviously half dry and half wet, so you can't really judge anything right now, but look how seamless that sits. All right, and you'll see a lot more of that when it's dry, but you'll have the layers that will sit internally, which you have, and you've got a lot of the perimeter length. And because of the elevation being so high, it's going to fall soft. If I pulled out my hair with a low elevation, you're going to get a step. But the higher the elevation, the more the graduation, the softer it's going to sit. Have a look from the perimeter, Dave. Come here. From the corner. Okay, you can see by keeping the maximum length through the corner, it's allowed me to maintain a lot of that corner length. I'm still going to detail the perimeter, but I'll see that, as we dry off the hair, as the hair begins to dry, but that's the disconnection I want. And later we're going to soften this hair around here. I like that disconnection. Once you start cutting the corner off, I don't know, you take away the length from the front. And I think you need that kind of length, but we're going to go a little bit, we said we're going to go a bit shorter anyway, so we're going to go a little bit shorter, but I'm keeping optional length because I want to see the whole thing when it's completely finished. How are you going, by the way?
Okay.
You can't judge your haircut half wet, half dry. You got to wait till it's completely finished. All right, last section is through the top. And then we're going to start to dry the hair. I'm going to just isolate the hair through the back here by keeping a clip there and on the other side as well. Any questions? I feel like there's a question.
Would you say 90 degrees elevation?
From here? Yeah, 90 degrees elevation, the last one to the previous section. This hair here on top, no matter how short I go, is not going to affect the length through the sides or the perimeter because look, it's all isolated. The whole haircut now is isolated through the perimeter. All I'm working on is through the top here. I'm going to work with another disconnection, another new guideline. All right, what we're going to do is first subdivide this hair to the top of the ear, okay? And then I'm going to put a little bit of moisture on. If I can have a water spray, I might just grab that from behind you. Do that on both sides.
Okay.
Yeah. 1 second, let me just take that section. And then what we're going to do is do the same slicing through in here. So if I could grab that. Let's do this side first. Thank you, darling. You can hold that. Thank you. So come over, look, Dave. So what I've done, I've taken a triangle section, okay? This is my triangle section, which is the diamond section from the top. I've isolated the front from the back because you always got to treat that differently. And I've taken that section all the way to where the section is underneath, which is to the ear, okay? And I'm wetting this section through here so I know exactly what to pick up from this side. So you don't need to use a million clips. Just wet the section that you're about to cut so it's away from the underneath area, okay? And you can just twist it, you can clip it. I'll clip it just to be a bit more technical so everyone can see. All right, now this is what I'll be cutting and focusing on now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna work horizontal sections again. And then what we're doing is we're working a new guideline. Okay, now I'm gonna just work this square till about there. First, let's cut a lot of that length off. All right, and then what we're gonna do is work slicing square. Okay, just breaking that right up so it's still got that chewed off effect. You don't want any solid lines with the wolf cut. It's all about seamlessness. And by creating that perimeter, that edge to be broken up like so, it just makes the hair sit so much nicer. The next section we're gonna work is, again, horizontally, parallel to the triangle or the diamond. And then what we're gonna do is elevate that to the previous section. So we're gradually getting a little bit more length. Let's cut that off first. Make sure we can see the guideline, and we're just breaking that right up to the guideline that we've cut. Okay, and this will give us some shorter layers through the top that will look super cool, especially on Cassie's hair here. And this section is quite high. You don't want to take this section too low, okay? Because when it's too low, it's going to look too thick and round. But the higher it is, the softer it's going to sit, and it's only going to be mostly the top section. Yes, the question.
So there's a question from Joshua Congreve. Where do you think the wolf cut will evolve into trend-wise? Like what are the directions you think this cut would take?
Well, naturally speaking, when there's a strong trend, what you see is when the haircut grows out, you'll see how that haircut develops. And it could be a whole bunch of things, you know, where you maybe even cut the length a lot shorter and actually grow the layers longer so it can work into more of a longer bob. There's so much direction you can go in. When I get questions on that, I find that so hard to answer. What predictions can you see? It's very difficult because there's no such thing as, for me, as one look that's on trend, because there's no one look that suits everybody. With the 80s, when there was a mullet, a lot of people got it whether it suited them or not. But I think right now, the message is all about suitability and individuality. Yeah, there's elements of the 60s. Yeah, there's elements of the 70s coming, and you pick and choose what you liked from that era and make it suit the individual. But to say that there's one look that will suit all face shapes is very difficult. But I guess the progression from the wolf cut will be dependent on the consultation and the communication that you have with your client. Some people will be tired of the shorter layers. They want to grow it out. So what they'll do, they'll cut it just shorter so the layers are a lot closer to the perimeter. Does that make sense? Or they'll just keep growing the hair out and you just keep trimming it and shaping it so it's more of a longer layered haircut with shorter layers. And again, that all depends on the consultation, the face shape, and the person that you actually are working on. So I hope I answered that, Josh. Good question, good question. All right, let's do this side. This is so much fun. Are you having fun? This is so much fun. I love this. And you're gonna start to, I just can't wait for you guys to see the end result and see exactly how this haircut turns out, because a lot of the times you see the sectioning pattern, you think, okay, that looks cool, but it's not about the sectioning pattern, to be honest. It's actually about the end result, because Cassie does not care what sectioning pattern I use. All she cares about is the end result. And that's why when we come to choose the sectioning pattern, let's always keep the end result in mind, because clients do not care what sectioning patterns you use. They care about the end result. So I'm using the other side as a guideline, working that square. Okay, as long as you're working square and using the other side as a guideline, you are pretty safe. Okay, just chewing off that perimeter a little bit more, and that gives us a really nice square look. Next section, I'm going to work a little quicker because I want to be able to create the finished result for you while we're live. Now, if we don't have time, because I know we've got to be an hour, but maybe we don't, maybe Duncan can let us know. I'm going to always repost the finished result so you guys can see. I'm going to do an edited version of this. You're going to have the long edited version of me breaking it step by step. But once I got this video, I always like to do like a 4-minute edit of each haircut video. And you can see that on my Instagram at Richard Mannah. And it's a lot of education there in 4 minutes. A lot of hairdressers don't have the attention span to watch a whole hour. So that's why I do a shorter version just for people to like, to share, and to kind of get the gist of what we've done in terms of the technique. Okay, this section here, we're going to work the perimeter edge by slicing, and then we're going to cross-check. Make sure we're happy with the cross-check. And you can see I've directed everything over to the initial guideline. I'm aggressively going through slicing. Now, I want to cross-check both sides, make sure I'm happy. So everything's going to be over-directed, like we did with both sections. All right, come from the front, and you'll see that you should get a little slight point, which we have. Same length. I'm just going to break that up for me. And the reason why it's got a point is because of my section comes down into a point as well. All right, last two sections are here. We're going to subdivide this one, use the back as a guideline, which is the last section here. All right, and we're going to start directing this over and have a look at what we're creating here. So everything's lifted up at 90. All right. You can see that guide. You can see the guideline there. Let me just cut that off first so everything's sticking up. So everything's lifted up at 90, no other direction here, and just breaking that up to connect with the guideline. Next section, you don't want to leave this too long, guys, because then it'll hang over the fringe, it'll hang over. Now you might get a little bit of a hangover, but you don't want it to be too heavy. Hence why we're just lifting everything up at 90. Straight up, all right, you can see that. Cut that first, leave about half an inch. Elevate everything up and just working the slicing through the perimeter as well. Any other questions? Are we good?
No, we're all good.
Everyone enjoying it? Okay, that softness that we're creating is what I think is very key. You're removing length and weight at the same time. And I think that's key for this look, so it's all seamless and soft. Last section, okay, you can see my section's there. I don't need a million clips. I want to be parallel to this last triangle section through in here. All right, and then we're going to cut that off and then working that slicing through. So you can see it's a little bit longer there, gives us room to slice. Slicing is great, you know, it's just, you don't want to over attack the hair, but you do want to create a guideline and follow that through with the slicing in this case, so it's soft. And again, she's got thicker hair. If it was finer hair, I'd probably use a little bit of point cutting like so, you know, not take as much weight away. But with thicker hair, you can afford to take more weight away. And that was one of the questions that was asked earlier. With finer hair, you just don't take as much weight away. Doing the exact same thing here, using the previous as a guideline, and then working my sections horizontally, and then working everything straight up and straight out, and then following through with the same guideline.
Would you possibly marry the fringe into those sections?
Yeah, you could. You could do that for sure. I'm gonna see how it sits now. I think I layered the fringe a lot more here in this section. So I don't know if I want to go that short in this case, but you could definitely connect the fringe. There's going to be slight disconnection, which is good, but it can be connected. It's just, I feel like, you know, that could possibly be a bit too short for this type of hair, hence why it's a little bit longer.
Duncan mentions that you're elevating each section back to the previous section.
No. The back section, yeah. This, no. This is, I'm just lifting up and out. Sorry, Duncan. So if I wasn't clear, these sections in front of the triangle, which is this one here, I'm literally just elevating everything up and out. And this last section I do parallel to that triangle. So look, I'm not over directing, I'm pulling it straight up and out. I don't want it too long to sit on top of all the beautiful shorter areas that we've just cut around the front. Hence why I'm just working the length at 90.
Duncan says it's okay to go over time, by the way.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Duncan. Okay, so just point cutting that through. Now I want to cross check both sides here as well. Always cross check to make sure you are happy with both sides in terms of balance. And it's just a little bit longer through the center here, which I'm going to just address. And pulling it straight up. I'm going to point cut to grab that weight away. I think I'm quite happy with that now. All right, let's have a look. You might get some overhang around the front. Actually, Dave, if you want to come around, I'll show you something. So when I come to comb this forward, okay, actually there's nothing that's going to overhang. If it's too long, if this is too long, you probably get some hair overhang. If you do, you just cut that off. It's not an issue. Okay, what I do want to do is now the perimeter a little bit. I just want to comb all this first. It's got so much hair. Because it's recently been pre-lightened, it just makes the hair feel so much thicker. All right, let's have a look at the fringe. Okay, and then we're going to reduce weight in certain areas as we begin to dry the hair. There's the earring. All right, let's have a look. So I'm just going to comb everything flat. Let's have a look at what we've created. And then what we're going to do is have a look at the shape completely. I might take a bit of length off the back. The original picture that we showed Cassie was shorter through the back. But I'm just combing everything flat to actually just check the shape from a visual and a technical standpoint. Okay, from the fringe. And like you see the hair is half wet, half dry, and it looks kind of funny when that's the case. So you just got to make sure that you dry the whole shape and then do what's necessary to make this work. Can I just look from the front out there for a sec? Okay, so There's a lot of the length from the back. I'm liking all of this front area. Just want to make sure that I'm happy with the balance. That feels good. Again, you never judge the hair when it's half wet, half dry, because it looks really weird, but you can technically just check the haircut and make sure you're happy with what you're seeing and what you're feeling in terms of the balance. Okay, I might cut the perimeter a little bit later, but for now I'm going to leave it. What we're going to use now is the protective shield by Defy Damage. I love this on blonde hair. It's magic. It makes hair look healthy, and that's what we want. Whether we're working something like a wolf cut or whether we're working something that's a little longer and healthier, longer and softer, I should say, we want an element of healthy hair. And I think this product really does that for us all the way through. How's it feeling? Wait till it's finished, eh?
Way later.
Way lighter. Way lighter. The shape's coming through beautifully. I think that's all I'm going to really put in terms of blow drying agent, because I don't want to put too much products in here. I think this is enough. If you put enough in there, it could look really, really nice. And just having a look at the fringe, I like that, the way that's sitting. It's a combination of, what's that girl? Oh, goodness me. You know what I'm talking about, that singer? You probably don't know what I'm talking about. She's on the Gucci campaign. She's got a very similar haircut to this. Her dad's a country singer. What's his...
you're talking about...
you know what I'm talking about?
Miley Cyrus.
Exactly, Miley Cyrus. But she's got a much shorter fringe. But what you have is quite nice the way it is. Okay, so just going to grab 2 brushes and start to blow dry. And have a look at the shape that we've created here. Just clean it up a little bit. Any questions while I'm drying? Nice shape. Beautiful shape. If you look at the new Miley Cyrus Gucci campaign, she's got very, very similar haircut to this. And as I'm drying right now, I'm starting to see the shape that I've cut in here. And I'm constantly thinking about what is it that I want to do, that I need to do to make this look even better. I quite like where the fringe is sitting. I like where the sides are. I might take a little bit of weight off this, but again, I want to have a look. Look at the profile there. See how you got the length here and then you got the drop of here? That's kind of why we went shorter to longer internally. But this haircut is so on trend at the moment. It's just a matter of, and there's more ways than one to do it. This is just one way of doing it, guys. It's not the way. Hopefully you get some elements from what we've created and you're able to incorporate it in your own way. It's not about carbon copying exactly the way I've done it, or anyone. It's about taking ideas, inspiration, and then recreating it yourself the way you feel is best for you and how you see fit to create this particular look. So hopefully you guys have learned something from the technique, but again, the haircut's not finished. What you're going to see now as we dry it, her hair's going to go, it's just so much hair. And that's where we're going to reduce a lot of that weight. She's got a ton of hair. So for the next 10 minutes, I'm most likely going to just take big sections and blow dry this through. I've got it on full heat and full speed. And I'm going to just really drain out most of the moisture and then begin to work the blow dry through just to smoothen a lot of this hair. And once that's smooth, I can then have a look at the shape and take out weight where it's a bit too heavy. But the technique I've put in there should sit quite nicely on top of each other, the way we've laid it and the way we've disconnected it. Alright, so let's get the brush and begin to blow dry. And as we begin to put some heat into the hair, you'll see how beautiful and healthy the hair will start to look. Look at that already. Look how healthy that is. And that's what the Defy Damage cream does. You know, and that's what we want to do. We want to put a bit of bend in the hair. And just put on full heat, get that really nice and smooth. Remind me, I'll give you some of that product, by the way. Let's get the underneath area. I'm not going to take small sections and spend half an hour blow drying. I don't want it overly perfect. I want it almost a little bit natural, but I do want to smoothen it out so so we can see the shape that we have here. So, we can take a section from the back, focus on the bottom first, but big sections. Okay, and from the front, we're putting a little flick in there, and that can we can smoothen that out a little bit if it's too flicky, but that will settle as we continue to blow dry. Really big sections and just smoothing the perimeter. There you go. And here, I don't want it to be overly bouncy, so just smoothing that. And through in here as well. You're going to see the disconnected layers. They're going to sit nicely on top, because of the elevation, and that's the key. So where it's sitting, it's just beautiful. But in the end, not everything has to have a lot of volume. Again, we're using the 70s, if you want to call it, the 70s as inspiration, but we're making it look more modern with today's technology, today's products, today's experience, today's taste. We take something that's older and make it fresher. So if you put too much volume in this, it's going to look too carbon copied to what it was originally. We don't want it to be like that. We want it to be modern. Kat is, she's young. We don't want it to look too old. We want it to look cool. And so the blow dry is also very, very important with how you blow dry the hair. Not everything needs a lot of volume. Sometimes something a little flatter, something a little smoother can look really cool and really young. So don't rush the blow dry. I think the blow dry is just as important as the haircut. That's half of the hair blow dried already. Taking big sections and smoothing that out. Now you're going to see the shorter layers, which is the third third sectioning pattern that we did, the diamond section. How beautifully it's going to sit on top of the layers. Okay, very seamless. You can't even see where they start or where they finish. If you guys go on TikTok and put wolf haircut, a lot of people are doing it with 3 ponytails. They're doing it themselves, and it's kind of crazy. You're gonna have a laugh. People get 3 ponytails and cut it in 3 different sections. But I've kind of used that concept, but I've done it professionally. And I'll always recommend people to get this done professionally, because then you're gonna have a haircut that's gonna look suitable and turn out really, really well on you. Okay, so look at something here. You're looking more and more like Billie Eilish, right? I think it's a little too bent from here, so I'm going to go back in and just smoothing that out a little bit. Alright, let's do the other side here. Everything good there? Yeah. Cute. I'm loving this. Do you guys like the Fringe?
Everyone's loving it.
How cute. Wait till it's finished, yeah? Look at that. Isn't that cool?
Beautiful.
Like when you're cutting it, you can't tell what's going on. It's only until you start to blow dry that you actually see the shape that you're creating. See, for me, I feel like it's a little heavy in here. This needs to be broken up a little bit. The rest of the shape, look how beautiful the layers are sitting. Like, it just complements the shape of the head. You've got a lot of length. I will tidy up the perimeter a little bit, but let's have a look. Look from the front, this beautiful curve here, David. Can you see that? Can you see how it's got this beautiful, the way it's blow dry and the way it's cut? It just complements her face shape beautifully. And you can always tuck a little bit of that behind your ear. You can always leave a little bit around here. Have a look at that. Look how gorgeous that is. See, I feel like this needs to be just a little bit shorter, but we'll have a look at that when it's completely dry. Beautiful, right? Are they enjoying that? Mm-hmm. Do they like that? Mm-hmm. I don't care what they think. What do you think, Cassie? You like it?
I love it.
That's, as long as Cassie likes it. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And I think, for those watching that are educators, what you need to answer is 3 things. What you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're doing it. What you're doing, I'm taking a section through here because I want to start with the underneath. That's what I'm doing. Why I'm doing it is so that I don't do the whole thing in one section and I can blow dry the hair nice and smooth. How I'm doing it is then I step by step show you how I'm doing it. And I think that's very, very important to answer those 3 questions on a constant basis, because a lot of you may be beginning as an educator and you run out of things to say. Talk not just about the technique, talk about the inspiration, talk about your experience, maybe share a story or 2, but go back to answering what, why, and how. What you're using, why you're using it, how are you using it? What you're doing, why you're doing that, how are you doing that? Those 3 questions are going to help you be able to stay in communication with your audience. But going back to what I was saying, it's important that the audience are happy, but happy client is the key that you want. So the more you communicate with the model, the more you communicate with the person that you're actually going to cut, the happier they're going to be, because you're going to have a better understanding of what they want and exactly what you're going to be doing. Because the last thing you want is to impress an audience, but then upset a model, because the audience will see that. And as a hairdresser, we need to be great communicators, and it's not about how much you know, it's also about how much you care. How much you care about what you do, but also on who you're doing it on. You guys agree? Give me some thumbs up if you agree. I don't know if they can even do that, but anyway, I'm sure they do. Okay, so back here, I'm just going to go again, get that nice and smooth. And by the way, how I like to communicate with my clients and my models is I show them visual pictures. Didn't I show you a picture? We actually communicated in the beginning through many, many pictures. She shared some pictures. Even today I was showing you some of the Billie Eilish pictures as well. With this colour hair as well. Again, similar colour to this. Getting those ends nice and straight. Because I don't want too much of a bend here, so I'm going to just spin the edges a little bit, and that's nice and smooth too. I'll do the very back in a minute. Let me just do these 2 sections here. Really happy with the technique and with the 3 disconnections. Even though they're disconnected, they're not 5 inches disconnected. They're slightly disconnected. And each disconnection is what gives you the shape. Whether it's 1 inch or half an inch, it's what gives you the shape that makes it sit beautifully in the way it's sitting. Is there a different way of cutting this? Of course there is. There's maybe 100 ways of cutting this shape. This is just one way that I think is easy and gives you a really nice result that you can recreate in 6 to 8 weeks time. So you're not just relying on feeling, you've got to rely on technique, okay? Because when she comes back in and she wants a trim, you know exactly what technique you've used. You're not relying on feeling because you don't always feel the right way or the same way. So you rely on technique. And if you can remember the technique that you've incorporated, you can re-section off the hair and give her the exact same haircut that you've given her that she likes. Or alter it slightly if she felt that it was a little long or a little short or a little heavy, whatever it is. It's constantly getting better and better, becoming a better version of yourself each day. Whether it be from a personal perspective or from a cutting perspective or a hairdressing perspective. We're always under construction. We never arrive. So be a person that's a student of life and constantly humble to learn and to grow. Okay, let's do the last section through the back center. is this area here. Okay, look carefully. Next, here's a lot of hair, especially through this area here. So we're just going through section by section. This is where the disconnection is, the layers, and you'll see how beautiful they'll fit. Blow dry, flat. Don't need to, create too much volume because you've got a lot of hair. For those watching, I had one of the best photographers actually filming, and I want to recommend to everyone watching from Australia and New Zealand, I believe the entries are open for the Australian Hair Fashion Awards. Am I correct, David?
That is correct.
And if you go to the new website, which is the, what is it? AustralianHairFashionAwards.com, I want to recommend each and every hairdresser to enter that competition. Not only because, it's a great thing to do and be part of the industry, but each year, if you enter a competition and you do a photo shoot, why that's important is I'm not plugging the awards as much as I want to. The reason why I enter the awards every year in the UK is because I would see a track record of my work. So let's say each year you invest and you do a cool photo shoot. You gather some models, a photographer. I recommend my brother if you're in Australia or New Zealand. Models, photographer, makeup artist, stylist, and what you do a shoot and you enter it. Whether you win or you don't win, it's great to be a part of it, but why it's important is you start to see the progression of you as a hairdresser and your work. So when you look back 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you're gonna think, wow, look at what I did 5 years ago and look at the quality of work I'm doing today. You begin to capture imagery, photography, video, whatever it is, constantly improve and put yourself out there. Because you're never going to win anything in life if you're always going to hide and think, oh, I'm not good enough. You are good enough. We are all good enough. It's a mindset. Making a decision, even if the first one's not great, you'll start off good. As long as you grow and you become better and you see the progress of your work each year, that's really what should fulfill you as a hairdresser. When you progress and you grow, for me, I'm growing every day. The minute I stop growing is the minute I want to stop living. Okay, so my encouragement to you from a creative standpoint is grow. Gather some people together, and I promise you something, you will be so inspired as a hairdresser and proud about the work that you do with the team that you're collaborating with when you actually put it on paper and do a photo shoot. So my encouragement is enter the awards. Enter as many times as you can, and each year make it a priority to stay inspired and be creative with models, photographers, makeup artists. And I'll tell you what, it's the biggest tap on the back and fulfillment for me as a hairdresser. So that's my encouragement to you. What? Australia, yeah. Check out all the details. If you're serious about entering, at least check out the details on the AustralianHairFashionAwards.com. And I'm specifically talking about this because I know my audience is mostly in Australia and New Zealand. And that's what the competition's for. It's for all of you guys. I know that they've recently extended it to New Zealand so we can involve you guys with one of the most prestigious hair awards in the world. Again, I'm not just saying that to plug the awards, I'm saying that to encourage you to collaborate and put some work out there because you start to see the progress of your work as a hairdresser. Alright, almost done with the blow dry, and then we're going to start to detail. I'm loving what we're seeing, by the way. Not finished yet though, Cassie. Alright. Okay, that was a bit of a workout. Thank you very much. No gym for me today. Alright, now I want to have a look at the shape and then detail. Come from the back there for a minute. Look, there's 3 disconnections here. The best way to judge a haircut is to comb it flat. Okay, don't go like that and think, oh wow, it looks great. No. You want to judge your haircut truly? Comb it flat, you'll see if there's any mistakes. You'll start to see where the weight and the heaviness is. Like I said in the beginning, her hair's thick, very, very, very thick. So I know that I'm gonna have to reduce weight already, but you can see that the shape is in here beautifully. I'm combing it all flat. Let's have a look from the front and from the back, okay? Now, what I want to do is I first check the perimeter. Okay, I want to check the perimeter. This side's a little bit, it's a bit more flicky than the other side, than this side, which I think I want to just slightly flick this side a little bit more. This will take 2 seconds because I want to have a look at both sides exactly the same. So just go back in here. That's enough for me for now. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but it just gives me a better idea. All right, so come around the perimeter. I want to just first tidy up the perimeter. So let's come in through here. Now if you want to come, so you're going to point cut this slightly around. So we're connecting the perimeter, that's your chain. Okay, I don't mind the length through in here. It's more around the, yeah, if you could just fix that up for us, thank you. Just going to take like almost like a centimeter off, and I'm point cutting, and that gives us more of a natural feeling all the way through. Let me put these down here so they're not coming in my way. Also through this area here, point cutting through, and then what you're going to see now is very important. I hope you guys stick with me right now, because what I'm about to do is so important, and I do this on clients because, you know, no one wears their hair wet. You've got to dry their hair, have a look at what's being created, and this is where you come to customize the shape, okay? So before we do anything, I want to check the perimeter balance. So I check technically, not just visually. So I check it with my fingers. All right, make sure she's looking straight. It's just a touch longer through in here. And make sure it's perfect, guys. It's a haircut, and you want your haircut to be perfect. So I want to make sure she's square to the mirror. I'm going to elevate her slightly higher. I want to get comfortable, because this haircut is not finished at this moment. I'm checking for balance first, making sure the perimeter is balanced. Okay, slightly longer just in here and through in here as well. Just ever so slightly, but you know, check technically, not just visually. Sometimes hair can deceive you and look longer on one side, but you got to check technically. Close your eyes if you have to and feel. Okay, because sometimes you can look at something for so long, you actually lose focus. So by looking away or closing your eyes and feeling the hair, you can tell right away where it's a little bit longer, okay? Now, around the sides here, Dave, if you want to come, I feel like it's too thick, okay? So like that for me. So what we're going to do, we're going to comb this flat through in here. All right, see this piece here? I don't want that piece. I'm going to keep that behind the ear. All right, let me just take that piece as well. I only want to focus on the part that's in front of the face here. So what we're going to do is we're going to comb that like so. All right, I'm going to take a lot of this weight by channel cutting. Okay, this is where girls want to look narrow, not round. Close your eyes. Now, I comb that and do a little bit more from the ear forward. Naturally, that's where it's going to swell. Again, now, look at that. So much softer. Just comb it back. Look at this beautiful. I love what I'm seeing here. This is what we call detailing, customizing, making the haircut look perfectly soft for Cassie. Okay, look from the front, Dave, for me. Look how round that is. Look how narrow that is. See the difference? And once I shake it, it will come out a little bit more. But right now, it's a bit too thick for my liking. Now, if you might like it, great, keep it. But I don't. And that's why it's called personalizing, because it's personal. Okay, now we're going to do this here. You can see I'm keeping the same direction, so I'm flicking my wrists. It feels uncomfortable at first, but you'll get used to it. Close your eyes. Let's comb that first. All that weight. Have a look at what we've created. It feels a bit heavy through just in front of the ear. The more you do this, the more experienced you become, and the more confident you'll become. Yeah, I've been hairdressing for a while, over 25 years. So, you know, it's a matter of doing it bit by bit and learning and becoming better each year. I haven't arrived. I'm still under construction every part of my life.
Is channel cutting your favorite technique? You use the slim shapes down?
It's the best way to reduce weight and maintain the flatness, yes. It's the best way to do that. So it's not the only way, but it's one of the best ways to maintain flatness and reduce weight. Like that for me. But you know, you could pick up the hair and slice it, point cut it, whatever you fancy. All right. Now just check for balance overall. Shake it a little bit, Dave. Move ever slightly. Yeah, right. That's it. And just feel. Also feel. Okay. I think it's just a little heavier in here. Don't just check visually in terms of the way it looks. You want to feel the hair. Hair is to be touched and to be moved around and to be checked thoroughly. Okay, let's have a look at that one more time. Yes, right. That's nice. Just a little bit through here. Don't rush this, guys. It doesn't matter if there's a client waiting. This is what you do to detail. I'm not changing the shape. Please don't like what people do sometimes with personalizing is they keep cutting and they change the shape that they put in there in the first place. You don't want to do that. I like that. Okay, come around the back. So now,
so this level of artistry and mastery should allow you to charge your clients much more than
yes,
quick haircut.
Of course. The more experienced you are, the more you should be charging, of course.
Taking your time and making sure they
absolutely. Okay, now see the disconnections? You got one there, which I don't want to touch. I'm going to focus more through in here. Okay, I'm not going to change the shape. I'm just going to have a deep point cut where we have and through this area here. Okay, just deep point cut. Deep, look how deep my fingers are. Okay, almost like, and that takes a lot of that weight away. In fact, I want to take a touch off through the bottom. So I will go back and just take a little bit off this, but I'm not going to connect that. I'm going to keep it disconnected. Okay, same thing now, all through the back, because it's so thick. It can, we can all make hair look good in the salon, but it's a matter of making it look good when the client's doing their hair at home. And this is why it's important to recommend the right products. In this case, Defy Damage Protective Shield is the one that helps to make thick, pre-lighted hair look healthy. That's all I've used, and the Luster Lock. Look at that, it's just beautiful, taking all that weight away. Taking section by section, I'm not just picking up hair randomly, I'm going through reducing weight technically. And that's what gives it balance. That's what makes it last 6 to 8 weeks. That's what makes it grow really well. That's what allows you to be able to reproduce this haircut after, when she comes back in 2 months' time, or 6 to 8 weeks, I say. People say, how long, till I get back? Hairdressers normally say 6 to 8 weeks. And I think that's pretty much right. But, sometimes haircuts can last a little bit longer. I'll say, whenever you start feeling it's out of shape, call me.
How do you ensure your clients take home the hair care products that you believe will maintain the look and shape till the next visit?
Well, you can't make sure of that. You can just only see, the concept is not to sell product. We as hairdressers should never sell products. We should recommend products. Recommend is a different. Don't be one of those hairdressers that sells. Always recommend, because at the end of the day, everyone needs a good shampoo. Everyone needs a good styling product and a finishing product. So, it's about being honest and answering those 3 questions I talked about earlier. What you're using, why are you using it, and how are you using it? And that's all you can do as a hairdresser, is just recommend. It's up to the client to decide whether they want to purchase or not. But we as hairdressers, we don't sell product, we recommend. Remember, answer those 3 questions. What you're using, why are you using it, and one of the most important ones, how are you using it? Explain how much of it you're using it. Where are you putting it? Is it on wet hair? Is it on dry hair? Are you putting it in a certain area? How much of it are you putting? Answer those 3 questions, because at the end of the day, if we as professionals need products to make hair look good, the non-professionals are going to need it as well. Okay? And when you have clients that are utilizing the right products to maintain your work at home, which is their hair, you're going to be busier because they're going to attract more compliments. And that's the best way to grow your clientele, is when they look great, the hair's looking fire, and people are saying, wow, who's cut your hair? Oh, Richard Mannah, or whoever you are from whatever salon you are. And that's the best way to promote. Okay, we're almost done. I'm just going to utilize a little bit more point cutting, and then we are pretty much done. I'm going to put some finishing products here. But again, don't rush this part. It's very important that you work through the point cutting to reduce that weight. Okay, deep point cutting, as you can see. This is what reduces a lot of that weight and allows the hair to be so much easier to maintain for Cassie. It's beautiful, Cassie's looking really good. I think it's one of my last sections through here. Elevate everything up, point cut that through, keeping all the disconnections in there. That's what gives you the perimeter length and everything that you've created. Okay, now last section is through the top. Again, move that around, it's beautiful. Look at that, just seamless. I'm gonna cross check the top here. Okay, I'm just gonna point cut a little bit as well. Make sure the weight is beautifully even through on both sides. And through here, in front of the ear. Just behind the fringe. Cool. I think the fringe is nice. I don't even need to personalize the fringe too much because it's actually sitting quite nice. Okay, I quite like that. You happy with this?
Yeah.
Yeah. One last thing. Come over here, Dave. I'm just going to comb this. I did. I hate that. That's okay. It's okay. I did do some channel cutting here. I'm just going to do a little channel cutting here. If you want to come over there, where the curvature of the head is. This is where you want it flatter as well. See that? Look. Beautiful. Just seamless. Other side. How we good on time? I'm almost done, Dave. We good on time? Huh?
It's been an hour and a half.
Okay, I'm almost done, by the way. Okay, last section here. Are we good?
We're back.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to use a little bit of the, I like these three products, some of my favorite products. Okay. Heat Hero is one of my favorite. It gives shine and protects against heat. You want to hold these two for me? I'm just going to use a little bit of this first, just to give us a little shine. Then I'm going to use a little bit of the Body Shake, because the Body Shake doesn't give shine, it just gives it a little body and texture. And you can wear this really messy. This is a great styling product, but it's also a protector against heat as well. Very good. We can wear this messy once we put the Body Shake in here. Okay, now we use a bit of the Body Shake. You've got to shake this really well. This is the Body Shake. So, you got that? Yeah? Cool. Shake it really well. And you can wear this messy, it's up to you how messy and how grungy you want it to look, I'm gonna grunge it up a little bit. I think it needs to be a little bit more messy. And your fingers are your best tools. But again, this doesn't give really much shine at all. So you wanna kind of like just utilize that first. I love that. Okay, once you've got that in there, make sure you grab this. I want to make sure they see this product. You got that? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Again, a little bit of that. And then what we're going to use is this hair dryer on cold air. The last product we're going to use is the Beach Shake, which is in your hand. So how are we going to use this? This is the Beach Shake. You got it? Yeah? We're going to use it on our hands. Hold on. Come on, move the zip straight. come from the front there a little bit. Just make it a little bit messier. A bit more. You can even put it on the hair a little bit. You liking it? It's cool, right? Do they like it, Dave? Are they liking it?
Yeah, there's another.
And you can like even like scrunch it in and, you know, not get it so smooth. I had to blow dry it smooth, but if she doesn't blow dry it so smooth and actually wears it a little bit more natural, it will look nice. The reason why I had to blow dry it smooth was to reduce the weight and see exactly the shape that we've created. I'll do a quick recap before we let everyone go. Okay guys, so just a quick recap. You want to come around? So we worked the back section. All right, we took a section through here, worked everything from the side, on both sides, cutting that internal layering and then obviously shaping the perimeter. Then we worked through the front here and we worked everything T to the parting, working that section short, disconnecting it from the corner through here. And then we worked the fringe by layering it through, using the scissors almost like a razor, just scooping a lot of that length out to give us that softness that we've created on Cassie's hair. Once we did the whole perimeter section in the back, we then worked with the midsection through here, lifted everything up, short to long, so you've got these beautiful internal layers, but you've maintained the corner length behind the ear. And then with the top, we worked square and directed everything to the initial guideline with the back section, then square through the front of the diamond. And then what we utilized in terms of a product, we started off with the K-Pack Luster Lock, which is one of my favorite cutting agents. We then used the Defy Damage Protective Shield as a blow drying agent. That's all you need. It's a beautiful cream, especially on dry, thick, pre-laden hair. And then what we use for a little shine is the Heat Hero, one of my favorite products that I can't live without, to be honest. And then we utilize a combination of the Body Shake and the Bead Shake for texture and for that little bit more of a waxy kind of finish. You don't want to be too generous with this, but you do want to use a little bit on this type of hair because it absorbs a lot of the product. And it gives you this beautiful, cool wolf cut, guys. I hope you guys like this. You know, if I take the gown off, it will kind of make a lot more sense. So just give me like one more minute, everybody. Does everyone like this? I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you can stand up for me, just come around this way. Come around the chair, yeah. Turn it all the way around. Brilliant. And obviously you see it with the gown, but you know, when you see it to kind of like what she kind of wears normally, you kind of see the attitude that Cassie has, and I think it really suits you. I think it suits you really nicely, and you can wear it in so many different ways. I think she's going to have some fun with it, guys. So look at them, say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Again, thank you for being patient with us. Hope you've enjoyed this morning session. For all those guys from in Australia and New Zealand, it was a pleasure being live with you guys all the way from Miami, Florida. Thank you to Joico Australia, to Duncan, to Kai and all the team. Hope you guys have appreciated it. God bless. Make sure you follow me on @RichardMannah if you want more of these cool cutting videos. Peace. See you guys. Bye-bye.